The wind moved first. It whispered across broken stone, through cracked temple walls, and over forgotten stairways carved into mountains long before written history remembered their names. Sand drifted through abandoned courtyards where kings had once believed themselves eternal. Beneath layers of earth, beneath collapsed cities and silent tombs, countless human stories waited in darkness. Untouched for thousands of years, every grain of dust concealed another question. Every buried skeleton carried another secret, and somewhere between myth and evidence lay one of humanity's oldest obsessions. What if we were never alone? The idea refuses to disappear. It survives every generation, adapting to new discoveries, borrowing the language of modern science while keeping the same ancient promise. Gigantic pyramids aligned with the stars, impossible stone monuments weighing hundreds of tons, ancient carvings that seem strangely unfamiliar, legends describing beings descending from the heavens. Civilizations appearing with astonishing knowledge. To millions, these are not isolated mysteries, they are pieces of a single puzzle. A forgotten chapter in which visitors from another world guided the rise of civilization itself. It is an intoxicating story because it offers something irresistible, a shortcut through history. An explanation for every unanswered question. Instead of accepting centuries of gradual human innovation, the theory proposes intervention. Intelligence from elsewhere, knowledge delivered from the sky. Books have sold millions of copies repeating the same argument. Television documentaries have transformed speculation into entertainment. Social media has accelerated every claim, every mysterious artifact, every blurry photograph. Each new archaeological discovery is instantly examined through the same lens. Alien ancient, Hyde suppressed, the narrative is elegant. Human civilization did not build itself. Someone helped, but history rarely rewards elegant stories because the deeper scientists dig into ancient cemeteries, forgotten caves, frozen valleys, and submerged settlements, the stranger reality becomes. Not stranger because it reveals extraterrestrials, stranger because it reveals ourselves. Bones have become libraries, teeth have become archives. Fragments no larger than a fingernail now preserve information more detailed than entire kingdoms recorded in stone. DNA changed everything. Only a few decades ago, archaeologists relied on pottery, architecture, carbon dating, and written records to reconstruct ancient societies. Those methods remain indispensable, but they tell only part of the story. They reveal what people built, what they buried, and sometimes what they believed. They cannot always reveal who they truly were. Ancient DNA can. Hidden inside every preserved skeleton lies a molecular history stretching back tens of thousands of years. Unlike myths, DNA does not exaggerate. Unlike legends, it does not invent heroes. Unlike political histories, it does not rewrite victories. It does not write victories. It simply records inheritance one generation after another without caring who eventually tells the story. And that record has produced discoveries no civilization expected. Entire populations vanished, others arrived from distant lands. Empires rose whose rulers carried completely different ancestries than the people they governed. Language spread without massive migrations. Migrations occurred without leaving languages behind. Families disappeared. Strangers became ancestors. The real story is more complicated than myth ever imagined. Yet the fascination with ancient aliens continues because history contains genuine mysteries. Consider Egypt's Great Pyramid. Even today, its precision astonishes engineers. Massive limestone blocks fit together with remarkable accuracy. The structure remained the tallest human-made building on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. Many conclude such precision required impossible technology. But here is where the story begins to fracture. Excavations around Giza have uncovered workers' villages, complete with bakeries, breweries, sleeping quarters, and cemeteries. Archaeologists discovered graffiti left by labor crews with names like Friends of Khufu. Stone quarries reveal unfinished blocks. Copper tools show wear patterns matching construction methods. Experimental archaeology has repeatedly demonstrated that teams using period technology can transport enormous stones with carefully organized labor. Nothing about this evidence is glamorous. No spacecraft. No anti-gravity machines. Only thousands of skilled workers, generations of engineering experience, and extraordinary organization. Human achievement often appears impossible, only after forgetting how much time people invested mastering it. The same pattern repeats across the world. In Peru, the precisely fitted stones of Sacsayhuaman inspire claims of alien engineering. In Lebanon, the immense blocks of Baalbek are described as impossible. In Easter Island, towering Moai statues supposedly exceed prehistoric capabilities. Again and again, researchers uncover quarry marks, transportation routes, unfinished monuments, and evidence of evolving construction techniques. None erase every mystery. Archaeology rarely answers every question, but each discovery reduces the need for supernatural explanations. What once appeared impossible becomes merely difficult. Difficult is not impossible. Human beings specialize in difficult. Still, believers ask another question: if humans accomplished everything themselves, why do so many cultures describe gods descending from the sky? Ancient Mesopotamian texts describe divine beings bringing knowledge. Egyptian religion speaks of celestial creators. Hindu literature contains flying vehicles called vimanas. Mesoamerican traditions tell of mysterious visitors arriving from distant realms. Around the world, stories connect heaven with wisdom. Surely, they argue, so many cultures cannot all invent similar tales independently. That argument seems persuasive until mythology itself enters the discussion. Every civilization looked upward. Every civilization watched storms. Every civilization depended upon the sun. Lightning descended from the sky. Rain descended from the sky. Comets appeared without warning. Meteor showers transformed night into fire. The heavens represented power because survival depended upon them. Anthropologists have long observed that isolated societies often develop remarkably similar myths despite having no contact whatsoever. Floods, creation stories, sky gods, tricksters, heroes descending from mountains or heavens. These themes emerge repeatedly because human psychology responds similarly to the same natural world. Shared mythology does not necessarily indicate shared visitors. It often reflects shared humanity. That conclusion may sound disappointing until genetics enters the conversation. Because DNA has revealed something astonishing. Human history contains events so dramatic they almost resemble science fiction. Around 70,000 years ago, our species may have passed through a severe population bottleneck. Some estimates suggest the effective breeding population became astonishingly small, perhaps only several thousand individuals. Every living person today ultimately descends from those survivors. Imagine standing among that tiny population without realizing every future civilization depended upon your survival. No pyramids, no Rome. No China, no Maya, no Vikings, no modern cities. Everything balanced upon a fragile thread that is not mythology, that is population genetics. And it is supported by independent lines of evidence from comparative genomics, mitochondrial diversity, Y chromosome variation, and Y chromosome variation. Suddenly the question changes. Instead of asking whether aliens built civilizations, we begin asking how such a tiny human population eventually filled every continent except Antarctica. The answer is astonishing. Wave after wave of migration, ice ages opening pathways, sea levels falling, land bridges emerging, entire peoples disappearing beneath later migrations. For centuries, historians imagined ancient populations remained relatively stable. Villages expanded into kingdoms. Kingdoms became nations. DNA destroyed that assumption. Europe alone witnessed repeated population replacements. Hunter-gatherers dominated for thousands of years. Then farmers arrived from Anatolia millennia later. Pastoralists from the Pontic-Caspian steppe spread across vast territories. Each migration reshaped the genetic landscape, not gradually, not peacefully, total replacement in some regions. Extensive mixing in others. The people living in a place today often share surprisingly little ancestry with those who occupied the same land 10,000 years earlier. That realization changes how we interpret every ancient monument: who actually built it, who inherited it, who conquered it, who remembered it. Sometimes the builders and later inhabitants belonged to genetically distinct populations. Ancient DNA exposes these hidden transitions with extraordinary precision. At first glance, such dramatic replacements might appear to support extraordinary theories. Entire peoples vanished, new cultures appeared. Technologies spread rapidly. Could this be evidence of outside intervention? But here is where the story breaks down once again. Each replacement leaves unmistakable genetic fingerprints, human fingerprints, lineages branching exactly as evolutionary biology predicts. Mutations accumulating generation after generation, no unexplained genetic code, no impossible chromosomes, no foreign biological signatures. Instead, scientists find recognizable human haplogroups diverging over thousands of years according to well-understood mechanisms of inheritance. Reality is breathtaking precisely because it remains human. Yet one mystery refuses to disappear. Some ancient civilizations advanced with astonishing speed. Agriculture transformed scattered hunter-gatherers into organized societies. Cities emerged. Writing appeared. Astronomy flourished. Mathematics expanded. Architecture exploded. To ancient alien theorists, this acceleration seems impossible without external guidance. History offers another explanation. Innovation compounds. Once agriculture produces food surpluses, populations increase. Larger populations create specialization. Specialists develop metallurgy, administration, engineering, and writing. Writing preserves knowledge, allowing each generation to begin where the previous one ended, rather than starting again from nothing. Civilization accelerates because information accumulates. Not because intelligence suddenly appears, but because intelligence finally has somewhere to live. Libraries, schools, records, still, there remains one extraordinary coincidence. The earliest civilizations often developed near rivers: the Nile, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus, the Yellow River. Alien theorists sometimes interpret this pattern as evidence of coordinated settlement planning. Geographers see something different: floodplains, fertile soil, reliable water, transportation, fishing. Agriculture, the same environmental pressures naturally produce similar solutions. Independent invention frequently looks like coordination when viewed from thousands of years away. Yet despite these explanations, one question continues haunting researchers. If human civilization evolved naturally, why do so many ancient skeletons reveal ancestry completely unexpected for their locations? That question does not point toward other worlds. It points toward forgotten journeys spanning thousands of kilometers long, before maps, engines, or compasses existed. And hidden inside those journeys are genetic lineages that would overturn centuries of assumptions about where entire peoples truly came from. The first clues emerged from laboratories examining DNA extracted from ancient teeth. What researchers expected to confirm instead began dismantling established narratives one sample at a time. The bones were silent, the molecules were not, and the next discovery would force scientists to reconsider who the first builders, warriors, and kings really were. For generations, historians believed artifacts alone could tell the story of civilization. A spearhead suggested conflict, pottery suggested trade, jewelry suggested wealth, temples suggested religion. Every object became a clue, and every clue was interpreted through the assumptions of its own era. But objects never reveal the blood of the people who carried them. A sword can be stolen, a language can be adopted, a city can be conquered. DNA cannot be borrowed so easily. The revolution began quietly, in laboratories designed to prevent contamination. Researchers dressed in sterile protective suits entered rooms cleaner than hospital operating theaters. Ancient bone powder was extracted from teeth and the dense inner portion of the temporal bone, one of the few places where DNA can survive for thousands of years. Every sample represented a gamble. Time, bacteria, moisture, and heat destroyed genetic material relentlessly. Many skeletons preserved nothing. Others preserved enough to reconstruct entire family histories stretching back millennia. The first successful extractions did more than answer old questions. They created entirely new ones. Skeleton after skeleton revealed that prehistoric Europe, Asia, and the Near East were populated by people whose genetic profiles differed dramatically from the modern populations living in the same places today. Entire worlds had existed beneath the familiar maps taught in schools. That realization transformed archaeology forever. The ancient alien narrative depends upon the belief that civilization appeared almost suddenly, as though advanced knowledge had been delivered from somewhere beyond humanity itself. But genetic evidence tells a slower, stranger, and ultimately more astonishing story. Innovation traveled with people. Ideas crossed mountains. Families crossed rivers. Children inherited both genes and knowledge. Civilization was not dropped onto Earth from the sky. It spread through countless human lives connected across thousands of years. Yet one mystery remained impossible to ignore. How could populations separated by enormous distances sometimes develop remarkably similar technologies? Why did agriculture emerge independently in multiple regions? Why did monumental architecture appear on different continents? Why did societies begin observing the heavens with such precision? The temptation is to imagine a hidden teacher, a forgotten civilization. Visitors from elsewhere, but convergence is one of evolution's most powerful forces. Nature repeatedly arrives at similar solutions when different populations face similar challenges. Birds, bats, and insects all evolved flight independently. Fish and dolphins developed similar body shapes despite belonging to entirely different branches of life. Human societies, responding to common environmental pressures, often reached comparable inventions without ever meeting one another. The similarities are real. The explanation is profoundly human. Still, beneath that explanation lies an even deeper mystery. If civilization emerged through gradual human innovation, then who exactly were those innovators? Who carried the first seeds across continents? Who domesticated animals? Who first transformed wild grasses into crops capable of feeding entire cities? The answers do not come from myths. They come from molecules preserved inside bones, buried for thousands of years. And every new genome tells the same remarkable story. Humanity's greatest secret has never been hidden in the stars. It has always been hidden inside ourselves. Among the discoveries that transformed our understanding of the ancient world, few have been as influential as a tiny fragment of bone recovered from a cave in southern Siberia. Hidden within it was DNA belonging to an entirely unknown branch of humanity. Before that moment, no one knew they had ever existed. They left no cities, no written language, no monuments that could announce their presence to future generations. Yet their genetic legacy survives today in millions of living people. The Denisovans did not arrive from another planet. They emerged from the same deep evolutionary tree that also produced Neanderthals and modern humans. Their discovery demonstrated something extraordinary. Entire human populations can disappear from history while continuing to live inside the genomes of their descendants. Suddenly, ancient legends describing mysterious ancestors sounded different. Not because they proved extraterrestrial visitors, but because real forgotten peoples had existed all along. That is not the whole story. As researchers sequenced more ancient genomes, another revelation emerged. Modern humans did not simply replace every earlier population they encountered. They met them. They lived beside them. They had children together. Between 1 and 2% of the DNA carried by most people outside sub-Saharan Africa today comes from Neanderthals. Some populations in Oceania inherited as much as 5% of their genomes from Denisovan ancestors. Those percentages may sound small. They are anything but. Every living person carrying those ancient genetic fragments preserves encounters that happened more than 40,000 years ago. Encounters never recorded in stone, conversations lost forever. Families whose names disappeared while their DNA endured. To ancient alien theorists, unusual genetic signatures are sometimes presented as evidence of outside intervention. The science points somewhere far more remarkable. Human evolution was never a straight line. It was a braided river, different populations separated. They evolved independently for hundreds of thousands of years. Then they met again. They mixed. They moved apart once more. Our genomes still preserve every one of those meetings. The farther researchers looked into prehistory, the clearer the pattern became. Ancient populations were constantly on the move. Climate changed, ice sheets expanded, grasslands disappeared, rivers shifted course. Entire communities were forced to migrate, carrying not only their genes but also their technologies, beliefs and traditions. Innovation spread because people spread. Not because invisible teachers descended from the sky. One of the strongest examples comes from the first farmers of the Near East. For decades, archaeologists debated whether agriculture spread simply because neighboring hunter-gatherers copied successful techniques. Ancient DNA revealed something more complex. Many farming communities were founded by migrants. Families left Anatolia carrying domesticated wheat, barley, sheep, and goats into southeastern Europe roughly 9,000 years ago. Their descendants continued moving westward generation after generation. Everywhere they settled, they mixed to different degrees with local hunter-gatherers, creating entirely new populations. The pottery changed. The architecture changed. The genetics changed. Civilization advanced not through miracle but through migration. Yet another mystery waited beyond Europe. When scientists examined ancient genomes from Central Asia, they uncovered evidence of one of history's greatest population movements. Mobile pastoralists from the vast Pontic-Caspian steppe expanded across enormous distances, approximately 5,000 years ago. Their ancestry appears in populations stretching from Europe to South Asia. The speed of their expansion once inspired speculative theories about lost super-civilizations. DNA revealed horses, wagons, pastoral economies, technological advantages, human adaptation. Nothing supernatural, everything evolutionary. But here is where the story becomes even more fascinating. Although these migrations transformed continents, they did not erase everyone already living there. Instead, every region became a genetic mosaic. Some communities absorbed newcomers quickly. Others remained isolated for centuries. Rivers, mountain ranges, deserts, and coastlines acted as invisible filters, shaping who met whom and who remained apart. Every landscape became an architect of ancestry. Mountains preserved old lineages. Oak plains encouraged mixing. Islands created genetic time capsules. Long before political borders existed, geography was already writing the genetic map of humanity. And as scientists reconstructed that map, one realization became impossible to ignore. The greatest mystery was never whether strangers came from the stars. It was how completely human beings transformed one another across thousands of generations, leaving behind a biological record so intricate that every ancient genome recovered today adds another missing sentence to the longest story ever written. The story of us. Yet there is one question that continues to echo through documentaries, best-selling books, and countless late-night debates. If ancient humans were capable of building civilizations on their own, why do so many monuments appear to arrive far centuries ahead of their time? The Great Pyramid seems impossibly precise, Göbekli Tepe appears impossibly old. The stone blocks of Puma Punku appear impossibly complex. The astronomical alignments at Chichen Itza appear impossibly accurate. To many observers, impossible becomes evidence. To science, it becomes an invitation. Because history has repeatedly shown that the word impossible usually means only one thing. We have not yet found the missing chapters. Göbekli Tepe is perhaps the greatest example. When German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt began excavating the hilltop in southeastern Turkey during the 1990s, almost nobody expected to find anything that would rewrite prehistory. Instead, massive T-shaped limestone pillars emerged from beneath the soil, many weighing over 15 tons, carved with foxes, snakes, birds, boars, and abstract symbols unlike anything previously discovered. Radiocarbon dating placed the earliest structures around 9600 BCE, nearly 12,000 years old, older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older than pottery in many regions. Even older than agriculture in its fully developed form. For believers in ancient astronauts, the conclusion seemed obvious. Hunter-gatherers could never have built this. Someone else must have taught them. The monument itself became one of the most cited examples in support of extraterrestrial intervention. But then the evidence continued to accumulate. Excavation after excavation revealed thousands of flint tools discarded during construction. Quarries were identified only a few hundred meters from the enclosures. Half-finished pillars remained embedded in the limestone bedrock, abandoned before completion. Animal bones suggested enormous communal feasts rather than divine visitation. Every new discovery strengthened a very different conclusion. The builders were human, extraordinarily organized, extraordinarily motivated, but unmistakably human. What Göbekli Tepe truly destroyed was not the history of humanity. It destroyed historians' assumptions about humanity. For decades, scholars believed agriculture came first. Farming created villages. Villages created religion. Religion created monuments. Göbekli Tepe reversed that sequence. Large ritual centers may have encouraged cooperation between scattered hunter-gatherer groups, eventually creating the social conditions that made farming advantageous. Religion may have helped invent civilization. Not the other way around. That revelation required no aliens, only humility. Again and again, archaeology demonstrates that the greatest obstacle to understanding the past is not a lack of evidence. It is underestimating ancient people. Our ancestors possessed the same brains we carry today, the same curiosity, the same creativity, the same ability to solve problems that had never been encountered before. Their technology differed. Their intelligence did not. Ancient DNA confirms this in remarkable detail. Genomes recovered from hunter-gatherers living 12,000 years ago reveal populations genetically indistinguishable in cognitive potential from people alive today. There is no genetic mutation suddenly appearing 5,000 years ago that transformed humanity into builders, mathematicians, or astronomers. No mysterious chromosome, no unexplained sequence. No biological leap suggesting intervention from another species. The human mind capable of designing cities already existed long before cities themselves. What changed was opportunity. Population density increased, knowledge accumulated, ideas spread faster than ever before. Civilization was not created in a single moment. It emerged from millions of moments, one invention supporting another. One generation teaching the next, and yet, one mystery refuses to disappear. When scientists compare the genomes of ancient populations from distant regions, they sometimes discover unexpected relationships. Individuals separated by thousands of kilometers occasionally share ancestry that conventional history once considered impossible. A burial in Central Asia reveals genetic links to Eastern Europe. A skeleton in Britain carries ancestry originating on the Eurasian steppe. Ancient remains in Scandinavia preserve lineages that began far to the south. At first glance, These connections appear almost unbelievable. How could people travel such extraordinary distances without modern transportation? The answer lies in time. Human migration is often imagined as dramatic expeditions covering continents within a single lifetime. Reality unfolds differently. A family moves 20 kilometers. Their grandchildren move another 20. A century later, descendants settle hundreds of kilometers away. After 500 years, their genetic legacy spans an entire continent. No epic journey, no miraculous technology. Just countless ordinary lives connected across extraordinary stretches of time. DNA allows scientists to watch those invisible journeys unfold. Every mutation becomes a timestamp. Every shared ancestor becomes another point on humanity's expanding map, and the map reveals something profoundly beautiful. Civilization was never isolated. Even the world's greatest kingdoms depended upon networks of exchange reaching far beyond their borders. Obsidian traveled hundreds of kilometers, amber crossed seas, copper moved through mountain passes, ideas spread with traders, languages followed commerce, marriages connected distant communities, genes traveled with them. The deeper researchers look into the ancient past, the less humanity resembles isolated civilizations. Instead, it resembles an intricate web, a web stretching across mountains, deserts, forests, and oceans. A web woven not by mysterious visitors from the heavens, but by generations of ordinary people whose names have been forgotten, yet whose DNA still survives inside billions of living descendants. And it is that hidden web, not extraterrestrial intervention, that may be the greatest secret human history has ever uncovered. The deeper scientists dig into ancient DNA, the clearer the picture becomes. Every genome recovered from prehistoric skeletons tells the same story. Humanity was shaped not by mysterious visitors from the stars, but by migration, adaptation, survival, and thousands of generations of human resilience. Ancient alien theories remain fascinating because they challenge us to question history. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And after decades of archaeological excavations and genomic research, no credible genetic or archaeological evidence has demonstrated extraterrestrial involvement in the rise of human civilization. What the evidence does reveal is far more remarkable. Tiny bands of hunter-gatherers crossed continents, survived ice ages, mixed with Neanderthals and Denisovans, invented agriculture, built monuments, and created the first civilizations. Their descendants are all of us. Our greatest mystery was never hidden in the stars. It was written inside our own DNA. Every cell in your body carries a story older than every empire, every kingdom, and every monument ever built. The more we uncover our genetic past, the more we realize that the greatest discovery in human history is not that someone else created civilization. It is that humanity created itself, one generation at a time.